Welcome to Women's Million Dollar Conversations with Alice Tang, where we share stories from successful businesswomen who have saved, earned, or sold over $1 million and discuss how they built their success and insights to help you achieve your goals. Now, let's join the conversation.
Good morning, Ana Chaud. This is Alice Tang with Women's Million Dollar Conversation. Here we're sitting in front of a super powerful woman. So today is Anna's story. Anna, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Would you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Ana Chaud, and I'm known in our community for being a founder, entrepreneur, and I started up 2 businesses and exited. But my true industry has always been as an executive coach, a financial advisor, and a business advisor, which is what I was doing before I started my business and after I got acquired. So when you ask me, what industry I'm in, currently I am a business advisor, but I am also launching a whole new business. So I'm back to being a CEO founder. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I guess I am a serial entrepreneur after all.
What industry were you in when you say you were bought out or acquired before you jump into today's position?
Yeah, so my business, I was in food services. I actually started a chain of fast casual restaurants in the Pacific Northwest. So that's the industry I was in when I got acquired.
Awesome. Since we are in million dollar conversation, we're here to talk about money, which is somewhat a taboo subject for many women, but not for Anna, not for Alice. Here I come. What is your value of money, Anna?
As growing in a different country, it also brings a different perspective than being in the United States. But I've been here long enough. And I think for me personally, it is the ability that it gives me to pursue my purpose, pursue my passion, and the timing that I want to do. Of course, when you're younger years, you are working a lot harder, a lot longer hours because you're building all the knowledge. And I feel like as we progress in life, money allows us to actually now apply everything that we learned in the younger years, bring a lot more value to your community and do it in a timing that works for us. So I think that's, to me, the value of money. It's allowing me that option.
To chase your dreams and to serve the community the way that you would like to serve it.
That's right. In my time. Yes. In the time that I want to
your
do
timing,
it.
not anybody else's
Yes,
timing. Awesome.
No, my timing. Yes.
Very good. Now we're at Women's Million Dollar Conversation. We will talk about the million.
Okay.
You are one of the wonderful guests who has either saved $1 million, made $1 million, or earned $1 million. Those are the 3 areas that we could pick one to go deeper. So which one would you like to focus on before we start the questions?
So for me, because of the acquisition, I would say I made it through the valuation and through building value with my company. So that to me, but I've always been a good saver, but that wasn't the original intent. The intent was to build value in the company and the companies that I built forward.
Okay, so I know where to head. So first, let's focus a little bit on the company. How many years does it take you to get to your first $1 million of income or revenue?
Yeah, so my story is not a typical story. I was a fast founder. Luckily, I worked hard for it. But I was lucky that I started a company, I scaled it, and I exited in a span of 5 years. So that is not necessarily the norm. But for me, it was where I had my savings to start my first location at the restaurant to build that value. So I would say for me, it was a 5-year from beginning through the acquisition. But it depends on the person. Obviously, if you're a savvy investor, you have an ability to know how long is it going to take for you to save it. But as a company, if you have a liquidity event, that's usually what happens. But it's hard to know because it depends on the industry, it depends on the stage of your company, it depends on how you run the business. Some people can get it done in a couple of years. Some people can take 10 years to exit. Some people never want to exit. It really depends on the founder. Yeah.
Very good answer. On your way to that exit of $1 million, what is the biggest bias that you have faced?
I don't think so. The bias exists for sure. I don't know. For me personally, the biggest bias didn't happen during my company. I think the bias happens as a business advisor more so than when I was a founder. I was lucky enough, and I've been lucky enough that being a founder, a woman founder in Pacific Northwest, we've had a lot of help in terms of support for younger entrepreneurs. So the bias didn't happen during my startup, other than I was in food service and nobody wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole because it's a very hard industry to be in. So I don't feel like that was where the bias was. I think the bias happens more as a business advisor and consultant than as a founder CEO, honestly.
So we are shifting a little bit from the entrepreneur and founder to the business advisor or the business consultant. Name one bias that you constantly facing. You need to overcome that. And how do you do that?
It's a bias that I think it's a natural bias. It's a gender bias, but natural, because the nature of my work is I'm almost like a business therapist, right? So I have to be really deep, dive deep with a founder. For better or worse, the majority of the founders are male, and it's a hard thing right now. And male, they like to hire other males. In terms of having the ability to be more vulnerable, more open, and all that, it's much harder for a male CEO to want to open up as much for a woman CEO. So that's something that I do experience. And it's nothing bad or anything other than there's still a lot of men who don't want to have a woman as a business advisor telling them what to do. Not to say that I don't have male clients. As a matter of fact, I'd say 80% of my clients are male. And I'm not going to say that women are also a little bit biased towards women. I think we need to support other women a little more, but women in the corporate world, unfortunately, are also biased towards hiring other women. And it's something that every corporate will tell you that. So the bias happens on both sides. It's not just on the male side, but I think it has to do with the nature of the position, because you need to feel comfortable with the person you're working with, because it's a position of openness and vulnerability. And that's something that I think that can happen. So it's not something that I don't know how much can change. That's the thing.
Yes, time can tell. In my industry, just a little bit about the financial industry. If today I meet with a woman prospect who's looking for advice, I think 80% of the chance I'll be able to connect right there with her. And perhaps, like you said, it's the position and the situation is different, because money is a really taboo topic for many. And I think women in general, I'm not saying the woman that we're working with, because they will transform after they work with us. But for some reason, I think I was able to break through with them. Maybe I'm shorter because I'm under 5. Maybe I have an accent.
I feel like you have a position of resonating. If you look in the business world, the biggest books, everything of leadership, still dominated by male writers, right? Mm-hmm. So women who are leaders, they're still reading books. They're written by men. You have very few books that are written by women leaders. And by default, you tend to think that a male can be a better leader. But I'm not advocating for it. I'm saying that this is changing. So actually, I believe that companies led by women are going to be a lot more adaptive to the new generation of workers, just because of the differences that we have right now of the new generation that's coming in, and the way they work is different. And men, they're set in their own ways more than women. They're always trying to change and adapt. So we'll see how it goes. It's time will tell.
I really agree.
Yeah.
We can have another hour of conversation about why feminine leadership is the way to go. Here I am sitting in front. I don't want to be distracted. Next question. When you make a very big decision, when the stakes are really high, what process do you use to make that decision?
That decision has to align with my intentions. I'm very big on intention. The name of my company is Sankalpa, which means intention in Sanskrit. I believe in intentions more than I believe in goals. I think goals are hard set and intentions are, always lasting, and they last. So I know what my intentions are. That's part of my personal strategy. So when I am faced with a big decision, I assess how aligned it is. Is that decision going to get me closer to this intention or not? And I'm a risk taker. That goes without saying. I take risks. I take a lot of risks, more risks than most people right now. The risks are not problematic for me if I know that particular decision is getting me closer to what my intentions are. And that's always been my compass. And if it's not bringing closer to my intention, it doesn't matter if it's easy or not, I will not make that decision. I just don't do it. So that's what I do. I follow intention. I'm learning to follow my gut a little more, but the intention is usually my guiding light.
Very good. So follow your intention. It has to align
Yes.
with where you're heading.
Absolutely. Yeah. And remember, I didn't say goals because goals are hard set. That's what most leaders miss, is understanding what are the intentions behind a goal. So I take that approach.
If you don't mind, would you share with our audience what's your intention today? Now, a woman can change her mind anytime, knowing that, but today.
I think a big intention for me is what we discussed earlier in the conversation, is that I always want to be financially independent. I don't personally believe in a line in the sand when it comes to retirement. I feel like my intention is to find the type of work that I love so much that I can do until I am 90, and that's never going to interfere with my life. So that is a big intention for me. It's that, okay, is this work that I'm doing something that's so fulfilling to me that I could do it whenever and be so happy doing it? Another intention I have that's a huge intention is I want to celebrate my 90th birthday dancing salsa. And that sounds like a funny thing, but it's a very huge piece of my life. I have to start that physical mobility and that health management early enough that I can actually compound it. So understanding how my body is going to move so many years from now, well, not so many anymore because I'm 53. So there you go. I'm almost there. So understanding that is huge because that guides my choices every day, what I eat, how I move, when I'm not motivated to go to the gym, and understand that if I don't do that, because that is an important part for me. It's feel active, feel that I'm healthy, because I believe in longevity, not just getting older by years, but being able to enjoy the later years. And so that's a lot of what I work with my clients with these days too.
Great sharing. Thank you. Moving on to the
Sure.
next somewhat challenging question for many of our guests is, when doing business, there may be a point where life is and business is super tough, that you were thinking, some of our guests would say, should I brush up my resume and just go get a job? Maybe you have never hit that, but if you have, what kept you going?
Are you kidding me? We all hit that. Yeah, there are moments through my business that I would wake up and what have I done with my life? I've had those moments. And yes, I've had moments like that too. It's that old saying, the only time you look back is just to see how far you've come. It's a saying, I have it on my board. I think that's what I do, is I try to see how far I've come. I'm very lucky to have people that are around me that remind me every day. I might even start tearing up of the things that I've done, because at that moment it's hard, but you always know you're going to get through it. So you need to be reminded of all the things you've accomplished. And for me in particular, when I opened my business, single mom, so there's so many things at that time. So I always look back. There's two moments I look back. Is the moment that I set foot in the United States when I didn't know how to speak English. I was 21 with 2 suitcases. So I looked at and I'm going, oh, okay, I've gone from that. And then I look back at my days of my business, which were really hard, but everything that I was able to overcome. So that's what keeps me going, is looking back, seeing situations that were way harder that I was able to overcome. That gives me the propelling that I need to move forward.
Beautiful. Look back how far you have come. Now that I recall, one of the guests talked about, not she, but her husband actually motivated her by saying that just look at everything is what it's meant to be, whatever that is. She's the one who said she wanted to brush up her resume and find a job, but her husband took her down. Wonderful community is good things, right? We have good people surrounding us. Our audience are dying to know the one thing you would like to tell them, especially our female audience. What's the one thing you want to leave with?
If there was one thing I would say is really learn early on the intentions behind your goals. I know that these words are used interchangeably, but they aren't. So when people want to make $1 million, I think that it would be nice to know why, and then use that as your guiding, as your compass for what you're doing. Because I feel like sometimes we have hard goals. I want to make 1 million. And my question is, why not 900, and why not 2 million, and why not 3 million? If I know what the intentions are behind making this million, I may end up with 1.5. I may end up with 2. I may end up with 900, as long as I'm getting what I'm wanting after that. I think that's the biggest advice I have. Most people don't do it. We live in a society of social conditioning, which is, I've got to hit these. And then another thing I would suggest is enjoy the plateaus. I think we are conditioned to live in a steep incline. We're always going up, and we never really have time to rest in between these steps. So you go up, you have a plateau, enjoy that moment, and then go to the next one. And then you have another plateau, enjoy that moment, and go to the next one. It allows you a lot of time to know what is that you want for the next growth. But we're not trained that way. We're trained to just go straight up. So you never have time to catch up. So that's what I would say is enjoy the plateaus, know who you are, get centered, and then head to the next level. I think there's always a next level, but at least you're very confident in what that next level is going to bring you and what you're looking for.
Very good. So know, why do you want to have X? Why do you want to achieve financial independence?
Yeah, that's true in everything. In the yoga class with Shavasana, if you don't have that moment of Shavasana, which is the most important pose in any yoga class, any yogi will tell you that it's the moment that you absorb everything that you worked. And if you don't have that ability, you don't know what the next step is going to be. So it's important to have that part of okay, what have I done? Is this what I want to do? And then know where you're going next.
That's right. So what is one piece of very good advice or very bad advice that has made a biggest impact to you?
When I was a younger founder, and not just younger in age, but younger into entrepreneur worlds, you have this idea of what you're supposed to do, or we're supposed to be as a company to demonstrate success. And every young CEO will go through that. There are books that tell you got to do this and this, you got to grow 30%. And a lot of times I was following that protocol of, well, how do I become a CEO? I was modeling myself after male CEOs. So that to me was what I wouldn't recommend, which is, again, know who you are as a leader. When you know who you are as a leader, that is going to be huge when you are building a team and growing a company. So the best advice, the worst advice is, I'm not going to read a book of Elon and say, oh, I want to be like Elon, or the classic book, The Hardest Thing. You see a lot of founders quoting him and say, I'm a wartime CEO. You have to know who you are. And when you do that, you attract a team that aligns with you and what you want. And then you have a team that's going to support you through your vision. That's the biggest piece, I think, of advice I have for anybody who's a business leader. But you don't have to be a business leader per se. You can work in any company. You can work in a corporation, as long as you're interacting with other people.
Know who you are is very important. Of course, we read books, as you just told us, but those are really the reference. We can take pieces from it to reinforce who we are and where we wanted to go.
Yeah.
So Anna, what are you grateful for today?
100% my 2 boys who keep me so inspired every day. The 2 kids who really make my life a much better place.
Aww.
And for what I've done. But I think that they have been such a good support for me every time going through this journey. I'm very grateful for them.
Awesome. And on behalf of Women's $1 Million Conversations, we are super grateful for you giving your time, your knowledge, and your experience.
Thank you.
So that our younger entrepreneurs, or maybe somebody is climbing the corporate ladder, can take a piece from this and transform themselves. For that, we're super
Yes.
grateful for you, Anna.
Thank you. And thank you for putting this into the world. I think that is something that I'm grateful as well. It's having somebody like you take the initiative to put the message out there. Very few people do that.
Awesome. So we will have the contact information of Anna in our show notes. Watch out for that. And I'm sure she's open to talk with you
Yes,
if
I
you have a
am.
question.
Absolutely. If you have questions, please reach out. I love doing that. So it's great.
Beautiful. Thank you so much once again. And until next time.